and thank you for listening. This is Sherry Andrea, and I appreciate you. Um, if you need to find me, you can find me at sherryspeaks.com. There you can find 80 plus attunements, all different kinds of information related to spirituality, metaphysics, um, energy work such as Reiki. Um, this is even if you're highly sensitive, empathy. If you have empathy, I have a really nice article that is specifically for empaths getting control of their empathy. So if you go to my website and you search empathy, you will find all the articles I've written that will be helpful to you. Also, you'll find services such as deep energy clearings, psychic readings, coaching. Everything is affordable, and even teaching sessions in case you just need 10 or 20 minutes to ask, a couple questions, a few questions, when it comes to, just random questions you might have. Not psychic questions, but random questions you might have related to how to do this, how to do that, so that's where you can find me. Remember to subscribe, like, and share this video if you'd like to, but please do like the video and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Okay. So I don't know how long this video is going to be, so I want to say that first of all. That's one of the things I want to say first. I don't know how long this video is going to be, so if it ends up being long, all I can say is what most people do is they'll listen to it in parts, a little bit at a time. The other thing I want to say, feel free, of course, to make a comment regarding your experiences. It always helps other people to also be able to read about other people's experiences and what they're dealing with. It's always very helpful. But the only thing I ask about making comments is that you keep it positive. There is never any reason to be negative or hateful. So before you make that comment, even if you feel some kind of a way about what I'm saying, if what I'm saying is poking at you, please stop and think before, you hit that button to actually make that comment. Reread it. Is this hateful? Is this negative? Is this mean? You should always, at every time in your life, be attempting to be a better person, to be better than you were yesterday. Okay, so with that said, let's see. Let's get right down to it. Okay, so, I'm struggling a little bit already with, what to title this video. This video is about what you may experience after, we'll say, awakening. But now, let's get into the whole awakening thing. It's a label. And the label actually of awakening can mean many different things. You can awaken to many different things. You can awaken to metaphysical abilities. You can awaken spiritually. Even somebody who's going to college and they're learning new things, they can awaken to new truths. Let's say you start listening to videos made by activists. What they may be sharing with you may cause an awakening. Some of the things they're sharing with you when they're saying, oh, this is going on, that's going on, and this isn't right, and that's not right. It may awaken you to seeing things in a different way. So it's also a form of awakening. So we can have different types of awakenings. Now, of course, this video is related to what happens post-awakening and is most related to awakening spiritually and metaphysically. This could also be an awakening that you have after something happens to you. It could be an injury, such as a head injury, a brain injury, a concussion or something. This could also be an awakening that was caused by you had a child and now your heart chakra has opened up more. Your heart has opened up more and you're experiencing things on a whole new level now. Because maybe this is the first time in your life you felt this type of love after you've had a child. This type of unconditional love. It could be an awakening that you're going through because you purposely, psychically decided to open up. You literally, maybe you had been experiencing what you thought was empathy, and like I did, I finally one day I had to know what was going on with me, so I purposely set out to awaken fully so that I would, for once and for all, definitely know, because I spent my whole life wondering, ever since I was a child, wondering what's going on with these experiences that I'm having, and wondering, is this normal? Is everybody else going through this too? They're just not saying anything. When we talk about awakening, it can be on so many different levels. But more specifically, what we're talking about is what happens afterwards and the experiences that you have related to ghost. And I'm using labels that people I'm trying to use all the labels that people may think of it as. Ghost, spirits, energy, such as negative energy, all of these different things. This is specifically what we're talking about, the experience of those things. I talk to a lot of people who are working on themselves, either spiritually or metaphysically, trying to purposely develop psychic abilities. And often most of them talk to me about things they are now experiencing. It's very new to them. Yeah, it's very new to them. And really, the way they perceive it is that it's new, as in it wasn't happening before and now it's happening. But the first thing I want to clear up is, and I want to present it like a question to you, because I like it when people can come to their own truth versus me telling them this is this. Okay, I'm going to present a question to you. Do you really believe that these experiences that you may be having, or that someone may be having, are new, like they weren't happening before? Or was it that they were happening before, but you weren't open enough, awakened enough to realize that it was already going on? Now, I'm going to use an example of, let's say you're blind, maybe temporarily. You're temporarily blind. Okay, so you're blind, you can't see. There could be 10 people standing in front of you, and you might not be aware that there are 10 people standing in front of you. All of a sudden you get your sight back. Now you can see that there's 10 people standing in front of you, right? But see, they were standing in front of you all along. You just were not aware of it. You couldn't see them. Maybe they were just standing there and they weren't making any noise. They weren't shuffling their feet. They weren't clearing their throats. They weren't breathing heavy. And you were totally unaware that they were there. But now that you can see, you see that there's 10 people standing in front of you. So is your question like, what's going on? Why are there 10 people standing in front of me? Like, that's a new thing. But they were already there. You just couldn't see them. And let me say this. There's going to be some people that listen to this video, and because of their background or their beliefs, they may not agree with the things that I'm saying, and they may want to, judge it and say, oh, that's evil, that's this, that's that, and they may want to judge it negatively. Okay, I'm going to address that towards the end of the video, So I would say hold your comments. Even if you want to right now, go towards the end of the video and listen to what I have to say before you make your comment. I'm not going to address it right now. I'll address it at the end of the video. Okay, let's use another example. Let's say that you are standing among a group of people who are all skiers. They ski. But you don't ski. You're the one person among the group as you're standing there and you're all, chit-chatting and everything. You're the one non-skier. But they're talking about skiing. They're talking about skiing and the experience of skiing. They're sharing their experiences, what they've learned and everything, but you're the one non-skier. And you speak up and you're just like, well, I don't believe that. I don't think that's true. Well, so-and-so, my pastor said this. My teacher said this, said that's not true. But look, you've never skied a day in your life. You don't know anything about the ski. Look, you haven't even watched skiing on TV. You haven't watched any Olympic skiers or anything. You know nothing about skiing. But now, you're ready to give your 2 cents. Well, would that be correct? Would that be okay for you being that non-skier to speak up and go, well, I don't believe what you're saying is true. You don't have that experience. You don't really know what they're talking about because you haven't experienced it. So it's not really for you as the non-skier. But you could politely just stand there and quietly listen until the subject is changed, and maybe it changes to a subject you can you can jump in that conversation and have something to say about. But would it be right to tell them that everything that they're saying is not true when you're really not the best person to give your 2 cents on it because you don't have that experience? But it doesn't negate their experience. If they're saying it's fast to ski down a steep slope, it's great to ski down a steep slope really fast, you can't really negate that. It may be true, but you don't know because you've never done it. You don't have that experience. So keep in mind, this is all about also what a person is used to, the experiences they're used to having. If you're somebody who stayed awake from the time you were young and you stayed awake and it was just normal for you to have experiences where with spirits, energy, ghosts, seeing ghosts, if that was just something you've been experiencing all your life, it would seem pretty normal to you. However, this is when you awaken. For most people, what they experience post-awakening is very different from what they've been experiencing their whole life. This is something they really have to wrap their mind around, and it's difficult at first to wrap their minds around this, and also it is also hard for them to wrap their minds around it while they're scared. I'll say it, while they're scared shitless. You know what I mean? They are so scared, and I've been there. Late at night, everybody's asleep because it's late, and now all of a sudden that's when these experiences happen. I used to actually start to get teary-eyed when the sun started to go down. Almost like geez, here we go again. I would. Now, I look forward to the evening again, because I am kind of a night person. I now look forward to the evening again. But literally, when I would see that the sun is getting ready to go down, I would start to almost want to cry. Because I'm like, oh, here we go again. Because often you'll notice during the day when there's a lot of activity maybe around you. You're at work, you're at home, people are awake, your kids are around, maybe your husband or your wife is home, there's people calling, there's people ringing the doorbell. Not much happens when it's like that. You're not having, experiences while there's lots of activities going on. But when it's quiet, everybody's asleep, you're finally alone, it's peaceful, it's quiet, that's when spirits like to be like, oh, okay, we can now get her attention. We can now get his attention because I need help. And I saw their light. So I'm coming to them. Maybe they can help me. Okay, so the thing is, I'm going to, and the example is you have to really ask yourself, was this already going on? I just wasn't in a state where I could be aware of it. I didn't know what was going on, but now it's not everything around you that's changed. It's you that's changed. It's you that's now, you got your eyes open. You can see. So the experience in itself isn't new. Was it already going on? And look, even for those of you who do not believe in this, you got that going on too. You're just not in a state where you're aware of it and you're experiencing it. It's like if, what was that movie called The Invisible Man? Okay, so if one of your friends all of a sudden went invisible, they could be around you and you wouldn't be aware of it. Let's say they solve that problem, they're no longer invisible. They're like, whew, I got control of that ability, so now I'm not just going invisible by accident. And now they can tell you, look, I was around you all day yesterday, but I couldn't get your attention. I was invisible, nobody could hear me, but I solved that problem, and now here I am, and now I can tell you, hey, I was around you all day yesterday, but you couldn't see me. I was trying to get your attention. You couldn't hear me. What are you going to say? You're going to be like, oh, you were? I didn't see anything. I didn't notice anything. But that doesn't mean it's not happening. Just because you're not aware of it doesn't mean it's not happening. So you really got to wrap your mind around that. Okay, so you're awake now. You're awakening. You're spiritually or metaphysically awakening. And now you're having all these experiences. There are noises that you're hearing that you can't really explain. You're sitting and you're wondering, well, were these noises already happening and maybe I just didn't notice it? But now it seems like every time I go to meditate or pray or say decrees or mantras, these noises start happening. What is that? Because when you're awake and you're aware and you're doing these things, now you can actually hear what's going on. You can hear that there is some, let's call it like feedback. Like, if you ask a question pre-awakening, you might not be able to experience hearing the answer. It's like if you were deaf and you asked a question and I answered it, but you wouldn't be able to hear me. Right? But now that you're awakened and you ask the question or you do something, oh, and that response comes back. That feedback comes back. Oh, but now you can hear it. You can see it. You can experience it. Well, the lights didn't flicker before. You didn't have this experience. They weren't flickering before. It's not that you weren't seeing it, you weren't experiencing it. It was that Now that you're awake, your light is shining a lot brighter. Your aura. When I say your light, I'm talking about your aura. When you spiritually advance, or you're working on yourself metaphysically, and your vibrations increase, your light increases. It's that pure energy that you have within you increases and gets brighter. So now, spirits and things that are around, they can see it even more. Spirits that have passed away but not crossed over can see it, and now they can find you to come to you to say, I need help. Now, you may not be able to help them because you may not have learned to really use your abilities to the point where you can help them, but they don't know that, and they're going to come to you and be like, oh, I saw your light. Oh, thank God. Maybe you can help me. Where the hell am I? Okay, and like I said, this is something you're going to really have to wrap your mind around. So this is something that you're really going to have to take a little bit of time on your own, and as much time as it takes to come to your own truth about it. And a part of you coming to your own truth about it is going to be through your experiences. Someone that hasn't had these experiences and aren't going through this cannot tell you anything about it. Just because one of your friends goes to church every Sunday and feels they have a really good pastor, they can't tell you anything about this. They don't know anything about this if they haven't had this experience. They actually need to be kind enough to you as a friend to just shut their mouth and listen. Support you by just simply listening. I remember I have a friend that's what she used to tell me. She'd be like, well, I don't know anything about this. And she would say to me, she goes, Sherry, I know you. And I absolutely believe you. She goes, I've known you for a long time. And if you say that this is what's going on, I believe you. I have no reason to doubt you. I know you. She said, but I don't have any experience with this. I don't know anything about it. So of course I can't help you. And there's nothing I can tell you. I can't advise you. But I'm willing to listen. Now, I consider that to be a good friend. The friend that does that doesn't judge you, that does that's a good friend. Now, if you happen to have a friend like that, that's great. But if you don't, this is a conversation about these things is best had with somebody who can relate to it. So if you need to, at this point in your life, with where you're at, if you need to go to Facebook and join a psychic development group so that you will have somebody to talk to about these things who will not be negatively judgmental and who won't make you feel bad, then that's what you need to do. Because also during these times, the hardest things about awakening and going through new experiences, because either you're spiritually advanced or metaphysically advanced, the hardest thing is that you will feel very alone during this time. Who can relate to the experiences you're having? I hear noises now when I pray. Yeah, okay, tell that to too many people. I'm going to tell you where you're going to end up. You're going to end up in an institution. And yes, I know people where that's happened to them. Where as maybe a young person in their early 20s, they kept, telling people, oh, I can hear voices. I can hear spirits. And how was that taken? People took it as they're hearing voices. That's a sign of schizophrenia. And in fact, I know some people who were committed. Be very careful. For people like us who are really trying to do a good thing, we're trying to spiritually awaken, metaphysically awaken. We're trying to be more of our true self. Sometimes this can be a very mean world for us to be in at that time in our life. That's when we really realize that so many people are not too nice. So many people who are going to church every Sunday and like wearing this disguise of being a good person are not good people. They're mean, hateful, unloving people. So be very careful with who you share your experiences with, because you don't want it to get you into trouble. You also don't want to alienate people. All of a sudden, your friends don't want to hang around you because now they've labeled you weird. Well, now I'm at a place where, and you'll get there in your development where you won't care what people say and think about you. Screw them. Because you have something great going on. They should want and wish to be you. So don't let it bother you. But in the meantime, you are going to feel like you need help. In the meantime, 1 o'clock in the morning and you live alone and all of a sudden you're having all these experiences and not knowing what to do because you're new. You're new at this. That's why I say join a psychic development group, because when you join a psychic development group, there's people there that are at all levels. Some of them are like me and have been at this for a while, and some of them are new, but some in between. But you will more easily be able to find somebody to help you, to tell you what to do, or to do it for you. That's what happened to me a lot. Other people would step in and would help me. Yeah, I had spirits coming out of the woodwork. I couldn't go to the bathroom without a spirit being like, yeah, I'm here. Can you help me? But see, the thing is, I was just learning to use my ability. So it was like I could be aware that there were spirits present. I could feel their touch because one of my strongest abilities was clairsentience, the ability to feel energy. So I was well aware when there were spirits around because they would make themselves aware. They would touch me. Sometimes I could feel it. Like I remember one time I was sitting and I was using the internet, and I was researching things about psychic abilities, and all of a sudden I felt what felt like somebody take their hand and rub my head from near where my hairline is in the front, near my forehead, all the way down the back of my head. I felt a hand rub all the way down my head. And then other times it would be less subtle, but still I could feel it. I would go to bed at night, and I remember after awakening, one of the experiences that I had is that I knew, I didn't know who it was at first, but I knew, okay, every time, this was when my son was really, really young. He was a toddler, and he was still sleeping in the bed with me. And as soon as we would lay down, we'd turn the TV off, lay down, and go to sleep, I would feel somebody sit at the foot of my bed. Literally, you know how that feels. If you're laying in the bed and somebody comes in your room and they sit at the foot of your bed, if your eyes were closed, you would be aware that somebody sat at the foot of your bed. It's not that subtle. But every night, for a while, this went on. I tried to be okay with it because I was just like, okay, well, obviously there's a spirit, and, pre-awakening, I didn't sense this. It's almost like, and I'm sorry if I can't explain it well, it's like before you awaken, that could have been going on and you wouldn't have been aware of it. And I know that you're thinking, well, wait a minute, if anyone sits at the foot of your bed, invisible or not, you would feel it. And I'm sorry I can't explain this better, but this is the difference when it comes to you being more open. is that you wouldn't have felt it. It could have been going on, but you wouldn't have felt it. 10 people could have sat on your bed and you wouldn't have felt it. But now that you're more open, you're more aware. This is that difference between, I don't know, it's almost like when the two sides get closer, this dimension and another dimension, when that gap narrows, and now all of a sudden you can feel things that were already going on, but now you can be aware of them and you can sense them and you can pick up on them, almost as though it's in this dimension, because it's like the gap has narrowed. So that went on for a while, this whole sitting at the foot of my bed. And luckily I was a member of a psychic forum, and so I had the good fortune to, on a daily basis, chat with a lot of people who had really great abilities. One person, she was a seer. Oh, she was excellent. She was a seer, and she was a trance channeler. She wasn't totally in control of it, but she was a trance channeler, and there was quite a few other people that had been working at it a while and had really great abilities, and they helped me. So one of the women, I finally got up the nerve to say, hey, this has been going on for a while, and I'm not saying it's not, I'm not bothered by it. It's not harming anyone, but it's getting to the point where it's just a little creepy. It is a little creepy. So I finally got up the nerve to, ask them, one person, if she could help me and at least give me some insight into who it was, what they want, why they're doing that. And what she told me was mind-blowing, because at the time I didn't know that my son's father's father had died. It was him. And she was able to give me, the message from him. She was able to talk to him and give me the message from him. And she said, Sherry, it was such a good experience communicating with him. Such a sweet man. She said, he said that while he was living, he didn't get a chance to know your son. And he just wants to get to know him. And for that reason, it was very hard sending him away. But I knew that he hadn't crossed over. The reason why is because of the other things that he was telling her to tell me were very grounded to earthly concerns. And so I knew he hadn't crossed over. And so, yes, I had to do that. I eventually, it's almost like saying I didn't even know this man. I didn't even know him. And it was hard. I eventually had to let him go. And I eventually had to cross him over. By that time, I'd learned some things. And so I was able to do that. He never came back. But that's because it's not like some people think it is, that spirits can just visit whenever they want to. Just like we're used to, there are rules. I can't just go to another country just because I want to. I have to be able to get into that country. They have to let me in, right? I have to go, you go through customs, you have to go through, or you have to go through what? Maybe you got to get a visa, but you can't just simply go to another country like that. Just like people can't come to the United States. That's why we have a lot of this immigration talk, because people just can't simply come here. They have to be allowed in, right? Okay, well, it's similar to that when it comes to spirits. They can't just come and visit just because they want to, like that. There are, like on the other side, there are rules. There are, rules just like there are here that have to be followed. They don't just get to do what they want. However, now you may be like, but wait a minute. Well, that's a contradiction to the concept of ghost. Okay, get rid of the label, the term ghost. There are spirits who are on the other side, and then there are spirits who have died and who have not crossed over for whatever reason. I've, removed spirits from people's home and had to cross them over because who it turned out to be was somebody who used to live in their house that committed suicide. And they hadn't crossed over because they were afraid. They didn't know what was going to happen to them because of what they did. And so they'd just been hanging around all that time out of fear of not knowing what was going to happen to them. Why? Because some people, while they're living, believe in the concept of heaven and hell. They believe in the things that they've been told by their minister, their preacher, their pastor, their priest. They believe in them. They believe that they're going to be punished for what they did. They believe that there is a hell and they're going to it. And so since they didn't cross over, it's like when a spirit crosses over, it's like everything comes back. Okay, like right now, you're living and you don't remember anything. You don't remember any past lives. You don't remember what it was like to be on the other side. It's like there's that curtain there, or what people call a veil. You don't remember, right? So when you cross over, all that comes back to you when you reconnect back with the light, with God, with however you want to call it, when you reconnect back. However, if you refuse to cross over, you're not going to reconnect to the light. And all the truth isn't going to come back to you, what's really true. So now that you haven't crossed over, you're more grounded to earthly concerns and what you learned and what you believed while you were living. So if what people got you to believe was all BS, was all some lies meant to control you, now you may be afraid to cross over. So you have to understand that that's why I said I didn't know how long this video was going to be, because this is a complex subject. And then add to that people's beliefs that they have, that they've been raised on. That further complicates it, because we are very, often at times in our life, we're very stubborn when it comes to letting go of some of these beliefs that people have convinced us of, right? So that even further complicates it, because we're stubbornly holding on to these beliefs we previously learned. Even just a simple belief like not believing in ghosts and spirits. There are some people that struggle a little bit with opening up spiritually or psychically because they did have a strong belief that these things don't exist. And now that they're having these experiences, they're having to try to wrap their minds around, I don't believe in that, but what the heck is going on? Yeah, I don't believe in that, but I clearly saw my lights flash when I went to pray last night. Or I was brushing my teeth and in my head I was thinking, God, please help me. Today's going to be a tough day because I got to go to court and the lights flashed. Or all of a sudden the toilet gurgled. Or all of a sudden something fell off the wall where we're like, okay, that's not even possible. I'll share an experience with you that a friend of mine had after her father died. Shortly on the same day, hours after her father had died, they heard a loud noise in the kitchen. She was there. I think both of her sisters were there. Her mother was there. They heard a loud noise in the kitchen. And they went into the kitchen. Laying on the floor was, my parents had these when I was growing up. You know the spoon and the wood spoon and fork, the decor that hangs on the wall? Well, when her parents had moved into this house, they had already been there. The previous owners had left them, and her mother liked them, so she kept them and she left them up there. But her father never liked them. When they entered the kitchen, it was on the floor. But here's the thing: it was on the floor quite a distance away from where it had been hanging on the wall. So what I'm saying is, it's hanging on the wall, and where they found it was clear on the other side of the kitchen, where they knew there's no way possible for it to have fallen off the wall and ended up clear on the other side of the room, on the floor. So there will be things when you awaken that happen to experiences that you have that you know there is no rational explanation for. But yet you'll be stubbornly wanting to explain it away. Why? Because of what you've been taught to believe. You know, what you've been taught to believe, these beliefs that were ingrained in you, that you're now going to struggle with, that you're not going to want to let go of because you've been believing certain things for so long. But now experiences are really, really pushing things for you. Almost to the point where you can't, even if you wanted to, hold on to some of these beliefs that you've had. So I'm just here to tell you, you're going to have a lot of experiences where things that you didn't believe in, now all of a sudden, you're no longer going to be able to just brush them off and doubt them. Be careful what you say, because I've had some crazy experiences just from saying simple things like, well, I don't know if I believe in angels. Well, I don't know if I believe in this. I believe in that. And believe me, the question or the wondering, what is it called? The question like begs the answer. Like, it's like, be careful what you ask for. Be careful what you question. Because the spirits that are around you, even loved ones that have passed away, that want to help you, will want to help answer that question for you, will want to help give you the answer to it. And sometimes when that answer comes, it's late at night, it's dark, you're alone, and it's going to scare the crap out of you. Now, I'm not trying to instill fear in you or anything. I'm more trying to prepare you. I'm not saying that you're absolutely going to have this experience, that experience, the other. I'm not. Everybody is different. The experiences we have, they're all unique. You know, some of the experiences I had, you may not have, but some of the experiences you have, I may not have. Oh, I've heard it all. So I know what's possible. It's like saying, I know what's out there. I may not have experienced it all, but I've heard it. A lot of people have shared their experiences with me, especially sharing them with me when they're explaining to me why at a previous time when they were awakening, why they shut down. Because they shut down out of fear. Because the experience that they had scared the crap out of them. So that's why I say, even if you're not at a point right now where you need it, if you're working on awakening and opening up your psychic abilities, or you're on a spiritual path where you're, maybe for the new year, you've decided, hey, I'm going to pray more often, pray and meditate more often, and spend more time doing that. It's going to lead to some form of an awakening. So even if you're not having those experiences quite yet, you might want to just browse around on Facebook and see what groups are out there that you can join so that you won't have to be alone. And so that you won't feel alone because you don't have any friends to talk to about these type of experiences. So, you know, me and a friend of mine, sometimes when we're talking on the phone and we're talking about various things, all of a sudden one of us will say, you know what? The struggle is real. We'll say like something like that. It's like the struggle is real. But through, you know, um, psychic development forums, groups, I've been fortunate to meet some really great people that still to this day, years later, I still know. And, they're still, they're my friend or my acquaintance. And don't be afraid to make new friends that can understand these things that you have now have going on, that will, on the phone allow you to just talk about your experiences without like shutting you down and shutting you up. Don't try to do this with people, like trying to do it like with your parents or with your siblings. You can't make them be that person that believes in certain things. You can't make them be that person that's going to be open and listen to you, because it's great if they try to be loving to you and just listen, but at the same time it is an awkward feeling to feel like they're not saying it, but now they think I'm crazy. They're not saying it, but now they don't believe in any of things. They politely listen, but they don't believe in any of the things that I just talked about. And I mean, I've had some loved ones say some crazy things to me. Oh, people just want to believe that because they want to believe they're special. I mean, I've had some people say some crazy and hurtful things. And you want to kind of avoid that, because at a time in your life when you most needed help, you are going to remember who was kind to you and who was hurtful. And it's going to be hard for you to let go of that. And you want to avoid it if you can. Because I still struggle with that a little bit. I've had, friends and relatives, acquaintances say some cruel and hurtful things to me that were very difficult to get over. That changed our relationship forever. Because you can't unhear the cruel things that are said. You can't unhear them. Yeah, you can let go of it and you can forgive and move on, but it's not like you can erase the memory of it. And so it can lead to permanently changing your relationship with people. And that's what you want to watch out for. You don't want to lose some of these relationships that you have just because people can't relate to what you got going on now. So you need to set it up so that you will have somebody to talk to that will be willing to listen and will understand and relate to the experiences you're going through. But okay, so I said that in the end that I was going to, for those of you who, have beliefs or whatever that have you wanting to leave a negative comment or a comment that, it's not what you think, it's evil, it's the devil. Yeah, you know what I usually want to say back? I don't, because even if people, it's like if somebody wasn't raised to be kind and decent and polite, I was. I can't step out of that and just go all nasty and negative just because they were. So, even though I wouldn't say this in response to somebody, but I'll tell you, it's in my head, I'd be wanting to say it. But what I say to that is, I'm not even going to say what I would say. I'm not even going to say it. It's probably going to come out as I'm talking about this, but I'm trying to be nice. Okay, so here's the thing. Maybe your point of view is that you come from the perspective of, like, you were raised in a very traditional way, just like I was. My parents, if I said to them, that this happened or that happened, and they would brush it off. They wouldn't listen to me. So, these experiences that I had being an empath as a child, being able to actually hear people's thoughts. I could hear, you know what I mean? There was what they said, but then I would hear the thought in their head. It would be like somebody saying, "Oh, I like you so much," but hearing the thought they had, "I can't stand your ass." It's hard when that's what you're dealing with, that you actually can hear people's thoughts. Because it can be, what they said isn't hurtful, but what you picked up, what you heard, hurt you to the core. And you couldn't help but being hurt by it because you heard the truth. So, I was kind of, the way I grew up, I didn't have anybody around me that believed in any of these things. And still to this day, I don't know any family members who are truly awakened, either spiritually or metaphysically. I only have, like, people that in my family that are the go to church every Sunday people. The people that think they know a little something about God, about Jesus, but really they don't realize that they don't know anything. They're just going based on what they're being told when they go to church, or friends that they speak to who consider themselves religious. The beliefs that have been instilled in them by pastors, priests, and ministers who aren't even spiritually awakened themselves. They're believing. It's like the blind being led by the blind. There's a lot of karma for that too, by the way. There's a lot of heavy duty karma for leading someone incorrectly, like, so these priests and these ministers that are instilling truths and beliefs in people for the purpose of controlling them. There's a lot of heavy duty karma for that. But you may have been told that these certain things are evil, certain things don't exist. But the truth is the truth, and it stands alone. You may just be a person that you believe in man and what man says more than you believe in God. Who are you really faithful to and listening to? God or man? Maybe that's the reason why you haven't maybe fully awakened yet, and why the only thing you can do is quote me Bible verses. I had someone once in a comment make a negative, nasty comment about, one of these comments, "Oh, you're evil, it's this, it's that." And then somebody else joined in and responded to them. There was like three women talking about me in my comments, saying, "Oh, and I bet she's never read the Bible either. I bet she never even picked up the Bible." I was like so offended. I was so offended. Mostly because it was, everything they were saying was so far from the truth, like they knew me. Like, they don't even know me. They're and then I was offended because I was like, and they're doing this under the guise of being religious. So basically what they're doing is they're saying, "Hey, I'm religious. I go to church every week. Follow me. Come to my church. Join us. Join the hateful, mean people who are so ungodly acting. join us. Who's the true devil? So for those of you who want to make that nasty negative comment, this isn't for you. Why? Maybe you're not having this experience because maybe you haven't awakened yet, spiritually or metaphysically. It's not for you then. Like I said in the beginning of the video, let's use the example. I'm going to use a new example because I like this one. Let's say you have a car, but you've never pumped gas in your life. But somebody tells you, or you're standing around and people are talking about the experience of pumping gas. Oh, don't you hate it when the thing clicks off and a little bit of gas spurts out? It actually spurts out onto your clothes, and now you're going to be running your hair and smelling like gasoline. Or they say, oh, don't you hate it when sometimes you're pumping gas and it happens to be one of those slow pumps, and now you're only trying to pump $20, but it's taking forever. Or they're like, don't you hate how it's all smelly, there's gas that's leaked on the ground, you're stepping in and you're going to give, maybe you're talking about the experience, but you've never pumped gas a day in your life. But now, here you are, you're going to try to jump in there and you're going to try to say, oh, well, no, that's not true. It's not true that, if the gas gets on your clothes that you're going to be smelling like gasoline for half the day. It's not true. But you're going to try to put your 2 cents in there about it. But you never pumped gas a day in your life. But now, the people that you're talking to, maybe they're just more polite than you. Because now, look, they're too polite to just, and excuse my expression, you guys, excuse me for saying this like this, but I think this conversation warrants it. They're too polite to tell you to shut the fuck up. But that's probably what they need to do. Because I feel that we haven't put people that have different beliefs, but that the way they share them is cruel to other people. It's okay for you to have your own beliefs. It's okay for you to not believe in any of the things I'm saying, but what it's not okay to do, it's not okay to be rude. It's not okay to be hateful. Are these religious and godly things? Is this what your religion is teaching you to do? How this religion is teaching you to be? It's never right. It was never right. It was never spiritual. It was never godly. And it was never Jesus-like. It amazes me how the same people that can say you need Jesus in your life act like they don't know the type of character he was supposed to have had. You can't even muster that? So you can take the time to memorize all these Bible verses, to be able to just quote them off the top of your head, or to know where everything is in that Bible. You could just flip to it so easily. You got your notes written on the side of the pages, all over the page. But the simplest thing to do, to be kind, loving, godly, that they didn't teach you in church, right? This isn't for you. This is for people who actually are making the effort to awaken, to discover their true selves, and to reconnect back with God, the light, whatever you want to call it. This video is for them. It is not for people who are stuck in the beliefs that they've been shared for the purpose of controlling them. If they want to be controlled, if they want to still be religious and controlled and hang on to beliefs that are far from the truth, they can do that. You have your right to do that. But what you don't have the right to do is to butt in and give your negative, nasty comments where they're not wanted. One day when you awaken, I don't know if you may or may not remember, but okay, in the Bible, so if you know your Bible really well, when Jesus was hanging on the cross, there were two other people hanging up there with him that were being persecuted they were criminals. They had done something. I don't remember what they did, but they at one point were also taunting him and saying mean and nasty things to him. And what did he do? He wasn't taunting them back. He wasn't saying mean, negative things back to them. He basically said that when they were ready to basically see the light and they were ready to accept him and accept his Father, that he'd be there for them. And sure enough, before they died, they saw the light. And they came around. And yeah, Jesus accepted them. Do you remember that? But see, at a time when they weren't in acceptance of the truth, he wasn't mean or nasty. Jesus wasn't mean or nasty to them. He basically took it. He basically took what they were dishing out and was like, okay, well, when you're ready to come around, hey, I'll be here for you. And I'll be ready to accept you. Most religious people you meet today don't have that in them. They're basically being raised up to be cruel, to be mean, to be negative, to be people who are like, oh, if they don't believe what you believe, they're nothing. They're evil. They're this. They're that. And you have the right to be mean and nasty to them. There are a lot of people that do believe truth. The truth that they believe allows them to be mean and nasty. I had somebody once tell me that. When I said to them, I said, just because you don't agree with, what I'm doing doesn't really give you the right to handle it this way and to be so mean and nasty to me. And you know what they said to me? They said, well, yeah, in fact, it does. When you're right, you have the right to be mean and nasty to get your point across. They actually said that, and this was somebody who goes to church every Sunday like clockwork. And yeah, I thought, oh my goodness, what are you learning? They're not teaching you to be good, to be decent. What are you learning? This is it. My point is, before you make that negative, nasty comment, there is no need to. This video isn't for you. And I would appreciate it if you leave and never listen to another one of my videos. Now, the day that you do awaken and you do start to see the truth more, and you do come to truths and realizations, if you want to come back at that time, feel free. But for right now, you're not wanted. You could learn something, a little something, if you'd be willing to listen and just listen and contemplate. Listen and ponder. Listen and meditate on it. But for right now, hate isn't what any of us need. So it would be best if you not make a comment and you just stop listening to this video right now. So for those of you who listened all the way through the end and then listened to that part of it that was not meant for you, but that was meant for the people who are I don't believe in this, I'm going to be negative, I'm going to be judgmental. Thank you for hanging in there with me and letting me speak my piece. Because sometimes it is necessary. Sometimes it's necessary to speak up for yourself, because in the process of speaking up for yourself, you're speaking up for others as well. In the process of speaking up for your own self, you're also speaking up for those that don't really have that voice at this time, and or haven't learned to speak up for themselves in a certain way yet. So thank you for letting me do that and for being understanding. I appreciate you, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And please, if you have experiences to share, please share them, because it will help. If somebody shares an experience and it helps you, and then you share yours, and don't be afraid to say, hey, do you have a Facebook? I'd like to keep in touch with you. Don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to say, hey, I'd love to discuss this, more, even if it's via Messenger. Do you have a Facebook? Connect with each other. Help, because you could end up helping each other. Well, thank you for listening. I appreciate you. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Feel free to ask me any questions you want. I don't mind. I will try to respond to all the comments that you leave. I appreciate you. Have a great rest of your day. Namaste.